Greetings and welcome back to all of my truth seekers out there. This is the unveiling where we like to pull the curtain back and expose the truth on different topics that are plaguing the black community and our society as a whole. So before we go ahead and get started, make sure you subscribe to this channel and make sure you like this video so you can keep me in your algorithm so I can keep reaching other truth seekers like yourself. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in and get started. It's time to pull the curtain back. So today's topic, we are going to be talking about integrity for integration. All right. Now, what do I mean when I say integrity for integration? Well, it kind of branches off from my first video. So if you have not already checked that out, be sure to check out my first video that goes and does a kind of a quick deep dive into the truth about feminism and where the idea of feminism started from, because contrary to popular belief, it did not start in the 50s how most women think. That was just kind of like I guess, like fourth or third wave, if you will, of feminism, but it definitely started well before then. So if you haven't checked that out, be sure to check out that video. But this video is going to be an extension of that. And my subsequent videos to follow will be an extension of that. So I think it's very important to watch that video because it kind of sets the foundation and kind of sets that tone. So today we are going to be talking about integrity for integration. Now, what do I mean by that? Like, when I say integrity for integration, what I mean, simply put, is at one point in time, there were people in the black community who decided that, they were integrated. They were able to shop at the white stores. They were able to attend the white schools, or their children were able to attend the white schools. They were able to live in the white neighborhoods. They were able to get jobs. So the fight of fighting white supremacy and joining together as a black collective was no longer needed. That purpose no longer served us, because now we're integrated and this is good. We're all set. And that mindset is what made us, in my opinion, lose our integrity, or that lack of a collective mindset is a lack of integrity. And because we feel like we've integrated and we quote unquote won the fight, we don't have to go hard anymore. And I will probably say that this started to come out around like the 40s and 50s, when we kind of started integrating a little bit. We kind of started setting those records and things like that. You kind of saw this shift in mindset in a lot of our people, where it's like, okay, well, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, they already did what they were supposed to do. We got the freedom, or so-called integration, that they wanted, so now we all good to go. And that has really caused a detriment in our community. Okay? And specifically, like I said, back thinking about the 50s, the 40s, the 50s, specifically, I want to focus on the women in our community. Because when I say the integrity for integration, as a black woman, I think it's really important for us we have to hold ourselves and each other accountable, because at one point in time as women, we had the integrity where you couldn't be swayed, or you were, knew that you were a part of the black community, so you wanted to fight that fight. But around like those 40s and 50s, when we started to get a little integrated, and we started to be around more white people, and black women specifically started to get whispers in their ear from white women, you kind of started to see that ideology and that attitude of feminism start to penetrate in the black community. Okay, now, why am I bringing up feminism? Well, because, again, it's important to know where you came from in order to know why you are where you are present day, or where you'll be in the future. It's important to know where you came from, and looking at the current state of things in our community, as well as being a result of the dysfunction in our community. I think that it's important to speak on, and I think it's important to speak to, because we can't solve problems if we don't first address them, and you can't address a problem if you don't even acknowledge there is one. And I think too many of us women, we've become very comfortable with, putting all of the blame on men. We talk about how, in our community, oh well, the men just ain't the same anymore, they're not the same how they used to be. Or we kind of put accountability on women by saying, oh well, welfare messed our communities up. Or we again shift the blame back to men. Oh well, the men is, they're not fathers anymore, or they're not this, or they're not that, or war on drugs. We always like to talk about the ways that black men have contributed to the demise of our community. Or we love to talk about the government, right? The government and white supremacy. We love talking about how that has contributed to the demise of our community. But rarely do we ever hold the other people that's a part of the community accountable. So if we're talking about the black community and there's men and women and children, well, obviously you can't hold the children accountable. They're children. And we hear the men being held accountable, but at what point do we step in and hold the women accountable? Because if they're a part of the community as well, I mean, you definitely had to have your hand in the demise or the dysfunction of the community. You can't just act like, you're not a part of that. So we have to talk about that. We have to call it out. And like I said, we always try to say, oh well, government assistance, that's when our community start going to shambles, when women start wanting to get government assistance. And quiet is kept, that the war on drugs and other things were definitely contributing factors to the dysfunction and demise of our black community, or contributed to its current state. But those weren't the first things. Okay, and what we have to understand is that mindset and attitude shape behavior. Okay, so we have to, when we talk about welfare and things like that, we have to then go a step further and ask that next question. Okay, well, how did things that we know were tactics from the white supremacists themselves, how did we let those things infiltrate our community and our mindsets? How did we let those ideologies penetrate our women and our children and our men? We have to ask ourselves those questions, because we can't just act like, because if you don't, you're just perpetuating that cycle that, oh, black people are just dumb and they just fall for anything and they just believe anything. And that's far from the truth. Okay, so accountability, it might hurts to take it, or it might hurts to hear the truth about how you might have had your hand in something that wasn't positive. But you have to be able to face that truth and understand that having accountability also means that you have the power and the capability and the knowledge to be able to do something, and also to change it. Okay? So, again, as women, we want to say, we're queens, we're this, we're that. As black women in particular, we hold ourselves to these high standards today, but we're not even half of the women that our ancestors used to be. Okay? And I'm just simply talking about the integrity and our principles and our values. We're not even half of what those women used to be. But yeah, we always come out our mouths trying to disparage those women and say, how they was, living bad and they was getting abused. Again, all of this so-called victim stuff to remove any accountability from their own BS. Because again, how are women today speaking about what women in the past were willing to accept, or what women in the past found to be happiness, or whatever? Why are we today speaking on what women in the past were doing? We don't have a clue. Okay, so for us to be thinking that it's okay to take on their same struggles and problems, and also speak on their experiences, we're completely disrespectful and we're completely out of line. Okay, and more importantly, we have to stop thinking that just because you have to do what needs to be done or what's required to be done, and just because it might not always look so sexy, we got to stop acting like, oh, it's oppressive, or it's struggle, or it's somebody trying to control you, or it's some type of. We got to stop with that, okay? Because that's just a very entitled and very privileged mindset. And if those women in the past had that same type of mindset, where would we be as a community today? Okay, that's what we need to think about. All right, so these videos that I'm going to make from here are going to subsequently, expand on all of these different topics. But um, I wanted to kind of lay the foundation that our community today is in shambles because we, as black women specifically, have traded in our integrity for integration. Us specifically as black women. Okay, like I said earlier, we'd already placed the blame on the government. We know it's white supremacy. We already know that that's going on. We know that's alive and thriving. We know that, men might have had some contribution to the dysfunction of our community. But when are we going to take it's time for us to take accountability for the portion that we're responsible for in our community's dysfunction. It's time for us to stand up. And the main way for us to stand up is by listening to our men and being led and guided by the men that are in our community, and listen to what they're saying, or other women, listening to women who are trying to get the truth out here so we can try to bring our community back together. Because at the end of the day, it's up to the women to try to put this thing back together, because it was the women who got us off track. All right, it's the women who got us off track. And like I said, we already blamed white supremacy. We already blamed black men. When are black women going to take responsibility for their portion of the dysfunction? Because to be honest, in my humble opinion, a black woman who is denying responsibility for her own dysfunction or chaos in her own community, that's that's asinine to me. Because, and that's too close to wanting to maybe be a white supremacist yourself. Because if you're perpetuating white supremacy, what does that make you? I mean, and don't get me wrong, like the saying go, all skin folk ain't kinfolk. But the problem is those of us who are born in this country and are descendants of people who built this country, we have to get back on code and get back as a collective community and get back in that mindset of we need to work together and that we need each other. And as far as being black people, we need each other, and we need that community and that collective to stand against white supremacy. It's no way that we can fight white supremacy and the dominant society by trying to all work separately or fight the fight all on our own individually. It just does not work that way. Okay, so when it comes to that, we need to make sure that we're getting back on the same page so we can really try to tackle this. People always saying, oh, generational curses, break generational curses. Well, how are we breaking generational curses if we can't even do half or a quarter of the things that our people were doing, and especially when they were enslaved? Or, when it was Jim Crow segregation and lynchings and all of this type of stuff. If they were able to do it then, there's no reason why we can't have that same type of collective and community now in 2022, where we're more educated so-called than ever. We have more so-called freedom than ever. We have more access than ever. There's no excuse as to why our community should be worse off today than it was back then. There's no reason. There's no reason at all. But the only problem that I see as to why it is that way is because we don't have that integrity that we used to have as a people. Okay, and like I said, we are specifically holding black women accountable because, again, this has gotten off and out of hand because of us. And so it's only up to us to get it back in line. If we don't want to listen to our men, what is it going to take? All right, we need to talk about these things and break them all the way down and hash them all the way out, because this is just not okay. We're as black women aiding and perpetuating white supremacy on a day-to-day basis and don't even know it. All right, when we talk about things like the increase in single mother households, when we talk about a decrease in marriages, when we talk about an increase in divorces, when we talk about an increase in abortions, when we talk about an increase in spending, a decrease in wealth, those are problems that we're facing in our community. And we all are aware of that. We all know that. We all can see the issues. But when it comes to talking about, all right, well, let's go to the start of this. How did this come to? How did this come about? We don't want to be honest. We don't want to talk about the real problem. We want to song and dance around it. We want to deflect. We want to blame others. And it's like, okay, but also we the ones that want to be recognized as black queens and black girl magic and the mothers of Sheba and the queens of earth. We can't be both. And if you want to be a queen and this and that, you don't just walk around proclaiming that. You have to do the work and be recognized as that. Or hell, maybe never even be recognized, because let's be honest, our ancestors, our foremothers and forefathers, a lot of these people never got the recognition that they deserved, or got the recognition that they were owed for the contributions to this country. But we know, what they were, and they didn't have to go around calling themselves queens and gods and goddesses and all of this stuff. We didn't have to go around doing all of that. All right. So it's like today we want to call ourselves that and proclaim we're goddesses and gods and all of that, but we're not doing half of the work. We're not even doing half of the work to even kind of be recognized as that. But yet we want all the recognition. It's like we can't, as women, be going back and forth, straddling the fence, specifically as black women. Okay, you can't straddle the fence when it comes to being black. All right, and just because it's 2022 and it might seem like anything goes, we have to zoom out and remove ourselves from our own bubbles and zoom out and look at the greater picture, the greater purpose. Okay, is it really is your purpose? Did God put us here, and did God create us in the image that he did to put us here to just buy material things and create memories and just YOLO it the whole way, and then once you're dead and gone, that's just it? Or was it that we were supposed to be put here to do certain things, which is keep innovating things and modernizing the world, and more importantly creating strong solid generations to keep us going and going and going. All right, because I mean, it's 2022. Yeah, you might be able to do this or might be able to do that, but what you choose to do ultimately is a reflection of yourself and your integrity and your character and your values and your morals. So if you're choosing to do stuff that's foolish, then you get foolish results. You can't turn around and say, oh, but I'm a queen, I'm a goddess, respect me, this, that. Okay, that's not how it works. And ultimately, this delusion and this disconnect is what has our community in shambles, all right? Because all of the things that I named, like I said, the decrease in marriages, the increases of divorces, the increases of abortions, all of these type of things, because women have the right to do it, because now women can vote, and specifically black women, now we can vote, and we don't even understand that we're perpetuating our own dysfunction when we keep those talking points up, or when we keep trying to uphold those ideologies that were not started by us. So absolutely they weren't ever for us. Okay, and that's what we have to know. That's what we really need to make sure that we stay up on game with. So like I said, my subsequent videos from here will break down the different ways where our integrity as women has diminished in the community, which in turn has affected why our community is where it is. And absolutely people are bothered by the truth. Absolutely things are harsh to hear. Sometimes it's kind of slaps you upside the head. But once you get over that initial sting of the truth and what's being said, you have to really let it soak in and penetrate your brain, and use your intelligence and use your smarts to really look around you and observe and say, is that a fact, or is this something that is true, or does it have some truth to it, or is it just something that people are just making up? Is it really just a lie and people are gaslighting me, or is it that this is some some truth to it, and I can see that, and I'm going to now make necessary changes and take necessary steps to change now that I'm aware and I have this new information. Okay, because humans are very smart. Humans are not dumb, and specifically black humans, we got to stop believing this, oh, y'all dumb, y'all lazy negativity that they want to try to perpetuate with us from the dominant society, because that's not true at all. Okay, and as humans, period, you're able to change things, you're able to revise, correct, you're able to do certain things, but you have to just be willing to do it. And like I said in the beginning, in order to resolve a problem, you have to first know what the problem is and address the problem. And in order to address the problem, you have to first acknowledge that there is one. Okay, so let me know what you guys think about this. Just kind of, like I said, wanted to set that foundation. If you haven't checked out my video about feminism and the true history of that, be sure to do so. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. This video is long overdue. But yes, I'm glad I finally got this to you guys. Let me know what you think. Like I said, be sure to like and share this video. And make sure you subscribe to this channel so we can go ahead and keep getting this information out there. All right, guys. Well, it has been another unveiling, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace.